Hey, what's up, guys? I'm just gonna be talking about like my quick thoughts on the newest episode of What If, which was what if Thor was the only child. And in this story, essentially, Odin, instead of adopting Loki as his own, returned him to his original parents, which is Laufey or whatever. And so, this is just his episode of him kind of going through his own arc in this timeline where he is more of like a party freak, carefree animal rather than, the Thor that we knew in Thor 1, where he was more of like this guy who was eager to rule, but rather he was very cruel in the way that he did it. So this guy was just completely turned 180. And yeah, so the episode was pretty cool. We got some fan service. We saw Howard the Duck, we saw Captain Marvel, we saw Surtur, and the most notable thing that I think was the most shocking thing that I saw was, if you guys have watched Loki and you saw that one scene where we saw all the Loki variants, and one of the Loki variants was a frost giant, and we saw him in this episode, and he's actually cool with Thor, which should led me to believe that the only thing literally causing a rift between Thor and Loki was Odin, which is kind of, I think, funny and messed up at the same time. But aside from that, Captain Marvel had a pretty pivotal role. Maria Hill was also in it. Shield was a pretty adequate part. Nick Fury was only in it for a couple of seconds before he was down for the count. He wasn't dead or anything. He just got knocked out by Korg. And this episode was just crazy, and I think that Thor was still kind of likable. He wasn't evil or anything. He was just, he had a lot of errors in his ways, and I think that he still underwent some sort of arc in this episode, but he still is ways off from who he was at the end of Thor 1. So I guess it's good to see that Jane and Thor still ended up together. And I have an issue with the ending though, and I'm gonna there's spoilers in this, so if you guys don't want any spoilers, just back out now. But at the end of the episode, we see that after the Watcher says, wow, this universe is actually working, it worked out well. But right after, he said, I spoke too soon, and a portal opened, and we would think that Thanos was gonna walk out of it, because he did that in Infinity War, and I think that he also did that in the zombie episode of What If, but instead, an army of these weird looking Ultron bots, they don't look anything like, I mean, they kind of look similar but not really to the Ultron bots in Age of Ultron. And on the end of that, we already know what's gonna happen because we've seen the concept art and all that, but we saw that an Ultron, like the main Ultron, came out looking kind of similar to the Ultron that we saw at the end of Age of Ultron, when he was just like fully vibranium, but similar to the way the Iron Man's mask like it latches up and shows his face. It shows his face, what do you expect? It's Vision, or Ultron in Vision's body. So I kind of have some issues with that, because if you guys know, Ultron was a result of the Avengers as a unit. Without the Avengers, there probably wouldn't be an Ultron, unless there are several factors at play here. It could have been that Hank Pym was the one who developed Ultron instead of Tony Stark, or Tony Stark developed them far earlier because of some event that happened in the same universe. So that's the thing. We know that Ultron was a result of the Avengers forming, and the Avengers aren't even formed yet. There's no even inkling of Avengers in this episode, because Thor isn't who he is, and Loki isn't a bad guy, and as you guys know, Loki was the bad guy in the first Avengers movie. So that those two already are out of the park. So the only thing that I can think of is Ultron here is a multiversal threat, and he probably came from a universe where he already conquered it or destroyed it, or both, and he is looking for more multiverses to conquer, which is why we saw in the Hyundai trailer that we see Party Thor, Killmonger, T'Challa, Star-Lord, Black Widow, and Doctor Strange fighting in this desert with against Ultron bots, and that's what I would think, that Ultron is a multiversal threat, and instead of Loki being the like similar to how Loki was the bad guy in the Avengers 1, this multiversal Ultron is going to be the main antagonist in the Guardians of the Multiverse episode. So that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much.